Welcome, dear viewers, to our channel. Today, we embark on an unforgettable journey that reveals the shadows of societal prejudice and the power of unexpected truths. Our story centers around Michael, a successful businessman known for his impeccable taste and dedication to high-quality dining experiences. However, despite his accomplishments, he battles a hidden adversary, the discrimination that comes from merely existing in a world that often judges based on the color of one's skin. As the camera pans over the luxurious exterior of Michael's upscale restaurant, a subtle tension fills the air. The grand marquee gleams with the name that has become synonymous with excellence in the culinary arts. Yet, beneath this polished facade lies a story of struggle, a struggle that many people of color endure each day. Today, we witness Michael pulling up in a sleek black car, dressed in a tailored suit, and exuding confidence. This is not just any visit, this is a man going home to his dream. However, little does he know that within those walls, he will be met with an unexpected hurdle. The restaurant buzzes with the chatter of affluent diners, unaware that their meals are being prepared under the leadership of a man who has faced countless challenges to reach this point. As Michael walks through the door, his heart swells with pride, until the hostess, Sarah, obliviously denies him entry, asserting that they are fully booked. The weight of her words lands heavily as he stands frozen on the threshold, confused and wounded. Why, in a place he built, is he made to feel like an outsider? As he watches well-dressed patrons stream past him, a deep-seated current of racial bias surges to the forefront. This moment sets the stage for a gripping exploration of identity, resilience, and the ongoing fight against discrimination. Join us as we delve deeper into Michael's story, exploring the layers of prejudice that hide in plain sight, and the extraordinary identity that awaits discovery. Together, we will unfold a narrative that challenges our perceptions and inspires change. As Michael stepped into the upscale restaurant adorned with elegant chandeliers and soft jazz music playing in the background, he felt a sense of pride swell within him. This establishment was not just any restaurant, it was one of the flagship locations of his successful restaurant chain. Dressed in a tailored charcoal suit that exuded confidence, he was ready to enjoy a well-deserved evening of fine dining. Little did he know that the very place he had worked so hard to build would soon become the backdrop for a painful moment of denial. He approached the hostess stand, where a young woman named Sarah was reviewing the reservation list, her brow furrowed in concentration. As Michael greeted her with a warm smile, he was met with an unexpected lack of acknowledgement. "Excuse me," he said. Trying to catch her attention, Sarah looked up, startled, as if she had just realized he was standing there. "Can I help you?" she asked, coolly, her tone devoid of warmth. "Yes. I have a reservation for one under the name Michael Lewis," he replied, a flicker of confusion crossing his mind. She glanced at the list, her expression unchanged. "I'm sorry, sir, but we're fully booked tonight. We can't accommodate you," she stated matter-of-factly, dismissing him with a wave of her hand. Michael's heart sank. "Excuse me?" he asked, struggling to process her words. "I'm sure there has been a mistake. I own this restaurant chain." At that moment, he could feel the heavy gaze of affluent patrons around him. Several wealthy diners were being welcomed and led to their tables without a second thought, their privilege glaringly evident against the backdrop of Michael's rejection. It was as if the universe had conspired to remind him of what being a man of color in a predominantly white industry often entailed: prejudice lurking in the shadows. Flushing with embarrassment, he took a step back, compelled to absorb the situation. "Is there someone else I can speak to?" he asked. Attempting to remain composed, Sarah cast a doubtful glance at him, her eyes narrowing slightly. "I'm sorry, sir, but I don't think I can help you." Stunned and hurt, Michael turned on his heel, his mind racing with thoughts of disbelief and frustration. How could this happen in his own restaurant? The incident felt like a cruel twist of fate, a stark reminder of the biases that permeated every level of society, even in spaces he had fought so fiercely to establish. As he left the restaurant, bitterness swelled in his throat, mingling with confusion. Michael, a man who had built an empire through hard work and dedication, was now seen not for what he had accomplished but rather through the lens of stereotypes and skin color. In that moment, he vowed to uncover the truth behind this pervasive discrimination, setting the stage for a journey that would both challenge and redefine him. With a heavy heart and a curious mind, Michael decided to don a different persona. The weight of discrimination lingered on his shoulders, and he felt an overwhelming need to gain insight into the insidious nature of bias within his own establishments. That evening, he transformed himself into an unassuming patron, dressing in casual attire to blend into the crowd. Armed with nothing but a notebook, he ventured into one of his well-known restaurants, hoping to uncover the truths hiding beneath the glossy surface. As he stepped through the restaurant's entrance, the subtle aroma of gourmet dishes filled the air, and the lively chatter of patrons created a warm ambience. However, Michael soon noticed how differently he was treated compared to the other guests. The hostess, a young woman named Emily, greeted several affluent-looking clients with enthusiasm, settling them at prime tables while overlooking him entirely. A tinge of frustration bubbled within him, but he suppressed it, reminding himself of his purpose. Michael finally caught the attention of a server, who reluctantly assigned him a seat near the back of the restaurant. The spot was less favorable, a clear signal of his perceived status. As he sat there, he observed the interactions around him. Laughter, camaraderie, and a sense of community filled the air. But only for some. His heart sank as he witnessed the blatant favoritism shown towards lighter-skinned patrons and a recurring trend of dismissive attitudes towards those who looked like him. One by one, other guests arrived, and he noted how quickly some were greeted and seated while others, often with darker complexions or less fashionable attire, faced delays and indifferent service. The disparities were stark. It was as if the restaurant's atmosphere shifted depending entirely on the skin color of its customers. Each moment of neglect weighed heavily on his conscience, igniting a fire that urged him to take action. Once finished with his meal, Michael decided to push further. He struck up conversations with nearby tables, sharing pleasantries while subtly probing their experiences. He learned that many had faced similar discrimination either directly or indirectly, recounting their own stories of being looked down upon or ignored because of their background. Depths of empathy washed over him. He was not alone in this fight. The community of customers, too, bore scars left by societal prejudice. When he returned home that night, Michael felt emotionally drained yet invigorated. He had seen firsthand the issues plaguing his businesses, the issues he never fully acknowledged due to his own privileged position. Michael realized this investigation was just the beginning. Empowered by the knowledge gained from those heartfelt conversations and observations, he resolved to confront Sarah about her actions. He understood that to create lasting change, he needed to shine a light on these issues, beginning from within. This chapter serves as a critical turning point in Michael's journey. illustrating the powerful impact of first-hand experience and giving insight into the realities of discrimination in the backgrounds of restaurants that aim to cultivate a sense of community but often fall short due to bias. With renewed determination, he was ready to face the uncomfortable truth that lay ahead, determined to understand the underlying issues of the discrimination he faced. Michael turned to his close friend, Lisa, for advice. An accomplished restaurateur herself, Lisa had experienced her own battles in a competitive industry that often overlooked individuals from marginalized backgrounds. Their friendship was a bastion of mutual respect and encouragement. And Michael knew that her insights could shed light on his predicament. They met at a cozy cafe, a place filled with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the soft hum of conversation. Michael settled into his chair. His brows furrowed as he recalled the sting of being turned away from his own establishment. Lisa, something has to change. I can't just sit back and let this continue happening, he exclaimed. His voice tinged with frustration. Lisa listened intently, her expression shifting from concern to understanding. You're right, Michael. This isn't just about you, it's about the environment you've created and how it impacts both your staff and customers. She replied thoughtfully. Michael nodded, appreciating her candidness. But how do I even begin tackling this? It feels so overwhelming, he sighed, running a hand through his hair. Start with awareness. You need to educate your staff about diversity and inclusion. Many people aren't aware of their biases. And sometimes it takes a conscious effort to change. Lisa suggested, her eyes gleaming with determination. You could host workshops. Invite speakers from diverse backgrounds. Encourage open dialogue. It all starts with creating a safe space for these conversations. Michael pondered this, envisioning how such changes could ripple through his restaurants. But what if some employees resist? What if they don't want to change? He questioned, a mix of doubt and anxiety bubbling beneath the surface. Lisa leaned forward, her voice firm yet reassuring. Change is often met with resistance. But as a leader, you have the power to set the tone and standard for your business. If you express your commitment to this cause and lead by example, it will influence your team. Those who choose not to adapt may ultimately find themselves out of place in your vision. The weight of her words hung in the air, laden with responsibility and hope. Michael felt a renewed energy building within him. You're right. I need to show them that diversity isn't just a checkbox, it's the heart of my brand, he asserted, determination illuminating his eyes. With a shared resolve, they spent the next hour brainstorming actionable steps. From creating training modules that focused on openness and acceptance to incorporating diverse voices in their marketing strategies. Each idea fortified Michael's commitment to dismantling prejudice within his organization. He realized that this was not merely an obligation, it was a chance to foster a community that celebrated authenticity and equity. As they wrapped up their meeting, Michael felt an invigorating mix of hope and fear. He understood that confronting bias within his business would be a tough journey. But with Lisa's support, he was ready to pave the way for change. Not just for himself but for everyone who dined in or worked at his restaurants. The future was uncertain. But one thing was clear, he would not walk away quietly. Michael stood in front of the mirror in his luxurious office, adjusting his tie. He had spent the night contemplating the various tones of pride and pain that fueled his resolve. Today was the day he would confront Sarah, the hostess who had unwittingly served as a mirror to society's deeper issues regarding racial bias. As he made his way to the restaurant, his heart raced, not out of fear, but from the weight of purpose he felt on his shoulders. Upon entering the restaurant, the familiar scent of cooked spices filled the air. But it was tainted with an uneasy tension. The evening crowd buzzed with laughter and conversations. But that sense of joy felt overshadowed by recent events. Michael spotted Sarah at her station, greeting customers with a bright smile. How could someone so cheerful contribute unknowingly to such a painful experience for others? Taking a deep breath, he approached her. "Sarah, can we talk?" His voice carried authority, but it was imbued with a sincere vulnerability. Startled, she looked at him, her smile fading as realization dawned on her. "Ah. Yes. Of course. Is everything okay?" Michael gestured to a quieter corner of the restaurant, away from prying eyes. As they settled into an intimate booth, he could see the apprehension in her eyes. "I wanted to address something that happened last week when I came in." As a customer, Sarah's brow furrowed, and she nodded slightly. "I'm really sorry if there was any misunderstanding. But we were fully booked that night." He leaned in closer, his eyes piercing yet warm. "Sarah, I'm the owner of this restaurant chain, and I was denied service on my own property. It was more than just a misunderstanding, it was a reflection of something deeper." She stared at him, shock washing over her face. You're the owner? I had no idea." Michael took a moment to gather his thoughts, feeling the gravity of what he was about to say. "You see, every day, people like me face the bias of being judged at first glance, based solely on our skin color. Your decision that night perpetuated that bias, whether intentional or not. And I want to understand how we can change that." The room was thick with tension, but it slowly gave way to understanding as Sarah began to absorb his words. I didn't think of it that way. I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt anyone." Michael continued. "This isn't just about that one night, it's about the culture we cultivate here. We need to be open to discussions about diversity and inclusion. Starting with our staff." Sarah nodded fervently. "I want to help. I've always believed in treating people right, I guess I just didn't realize my role in this." Their conversation slowly shifted from confrontation to collaboration. Michael and Sarah brainstormed ideas on how to foster an environment where everyone felt valued, regardless of their background. By the time they finished, both felt invigorated, ready to transform their workspace into a sanctuary of understanding and respect. As they left the booth, Michael felt a flicker of hope, perhaps. Conversations like this could ignite real change, not just in their restaurant, but within the community at large. After confronting Sarah about her prejudiced actions, Michael sits torn yet resolute. He knows that one conversation won't alter the deep-rooted biases present in the community, nor will it erase the stigma overlaying his identity as a successful businessman of color. He understands that the only way to bring about real change is to initiate a dialogue around inclusivity that extends beyond the walls of his restaurant. Determined, Michael gathers his management team for an emergency meeting. As they sit around the polished conference table, he lays out his vision, not only for the restaurant but for their role in the community. "We are more than just a place to eat, we can be a beacon of change. I want to cultivate an environment that embodies diversity and equitable treatment for everyone. It's about time we make this restaurant a safe space, not just for our staff, but for our customers as well." The team, unsure at first, slowly begins to warm to his idea. They brainstorm ways to educate their staff on sensitivity training and unconscious bias, recognizing that they first need to be able to articulate and seriously address the issues at hand. They discuss attending workshops and bringing in diversity consultants, all eager to lay the groundwork for a more compassionate workplace. As weeks go by, the training sessions create a ripple effect throughout the restaurant. The staff, initially apprehensive, now engages openly in conversations about race and discrimination. Stories of their own experiences, often silenced in the past, begin to emerge. There's Maria, a young waitress who shares her tale of being dismissed at a community college because of her background. And Daniel, a cook who reveals his struggles with being judged for his heritage. These shared narratives foster an environment of empathy, where staff members learn the significance of listening and understanding one another. Michael watches as the atmosphere in the restaurant transforms. Employees grow more comfortable with one another, swapping stories and sharing laughter in the break room. As they become a unified team, they start interacting with customers more authentically, extending their newfound understanding beyond the kitchen. The changes do not go unnoticed. Loyal patrons express appreciation for the restaurant's evolving culture, while newcomers feel a warm welcome, regardless of their background. More and more, Michael sees the dining experience as an opportunity to bridge gaps. He encourages his staff to engage with customers of various backgrounds, inviting their unique stories to shape the restaurant's identity. However, the impact is not solely positive. Some longtime customers resent these changes, expressing discontent over what they perceive as political correctness. This reaction ignites tension within the establishment, but it also strengthens Michael's resolve. He views this adversity as a teachable moment and seizes the opportunity to inspire conversations about acceptance and community. In this brewing environment filled with complex emotions, the restaurant stands as a testament to the power of compassion. And Michael feels gratified knowing that he is helping create a foundation for lasting change. As the ripple effects of their training and open dialogue transform both the workplace and the community, he knows that every small victory is a step toward a brighter, more inclusive future. As news of Michael's confrontation with Sarah began to circulate, a buzz enveloped the community. The bustling streets outside the restaurant buzzed with conversations and debates, reflecting the various emotions surrounding the topic of racial equity. Supporters hailed Michael for his courage, while critics denounced him, claiming he was overreacting. This split reaction injected an added layer of tension into the unfolding narrative. The restaurant, once an exclusive destination for the upper crust, transformed into a meeting ground for open dialogue. Michael's own experiences ignited discussions among diners. Smaller tables turned into focal points of passionate debates. Some patrons who had once turned a blind eye to subtle biases were now taking a stand, eager to voice their thoughts and to support Michael in his mission for change. However, not everyone was pleased with his decision to spotlight discrimination. A group of regulars, who had always enjoyed the exclusivity of the restaurant, spoke openly about their disdain for the new policies. "Why should we cater to everyone?" one middle-aged man grumbled to his companions, asserting that the restaurant's appeal lay in its elite status. But Michael remained unfazed. He engaged with his loyal staff, encouraging them to share their experiences, further cultivating a support network within the restaurant walls. Each story echoed the challenges faced by employees from diverse backgrounds, many of whom had never felt comfortable voicing their opinions before. The discussions became an illuminating panorama of personal narratives, revealing the deeper impact of societal biases and discrimination. Convincing employees to share their stories was no small feat. But as trust blossomed between Michael and his team, They began to feel empowered. Characters like Reena, a dedicated server of Indian descent, shared her harrowing experiences of being overlooked during busy shifts, simply due to the color of her skin. Another team member, Miguel, recounted how often he faced skepticism regarding his capabilities as a chef. Despite his accolades, with every story shared, the atmosphere shifted, facilitating healing and understanding. Michael observed firsthand the transformation occurring within his restaurant. Diners began to engage in open conversations about equity, redefining the narrative that the restaurant had once been all about exclusivity. The duality of community reaction was palpable. On one hand, Michael's establishment became a sanctuary for new patrons longing for a more inclusive dining experience. On the other, the dissenting voices made it clear the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges. Stepping into the shoes of his community, Michael understood that while he had sparked change, the road to re-education and acceptance required ongoing effort. No longer simply a restaurateur, he was becoming a beacon for an evolving dialogue, one that challenged the systemic norms of the industry. As this chapter unfolds, it effectively underscores the importance of courage in advocating for equity and inclusivity within not only businesses but the broader community. Painting a vivid portrait of a restaurant at the heart of a significant cultural shift, the day of the forum finally arrived, and anticipation hung thick in the air. Michael stood in front of the glistening facade of his restaurant, now a space for community dialogue rather than mere dining. It had been a difficult decision to host this public forum, but he believed wholeheartedly that fostering an inclusive environment extended beyond the walls of his business. It required open conversation and shared experiences. As attendees filtered in, a diverse crowd began to fill the seats. Local business owners, activists, and community members were eager to share their stories and insights. Michael glanced around and could see the reflection of their hopes and struggles in their eyes. He felt a swell of responsibility, knowing that today would not only be an opportunity for healing but also a platform for change. The discussion kicked off with Michael introducing himself and sharing his personal journey, how deep-seated biases had affected him, both in his personal life and as a business owner. He recounted his experiences from being denied service to discovering the troubling truths about his own restaurants. With each word, he set a tone of vulnerability that resonated with many in the room. Next, he invited Lisa, his ally and fellow restaurant owner, to share her insights. She spoke eloquently about the necessity of confronting discrimination head-on, recalling instances where her own business faced backlash for rejecting prejudiced practices. Lisa emphasized that the solution lay in education and understanding, igniting a spark of agreement among the audience. As hands began to raise, stories poured out, each tale unique yet unmistakably connected by a common thread of hardship. An elderly woman recounted growing up during the civil rights movement, while a young man spoke of his struggles against microaggressions in his workplace. The room fell silent as raw emotions unfolded, shifting the atmosphere to one of solidarity and empathy. However, not all voices were supportive. A gentleman in a suit stood up, expressing displeasure over the need for such discussions. He argued that he had never personally witnessed discrimination and deemed Michael's efforts unnecessary. Gasps echoed, but Michael maintained his composure. It's crucial to recognize that just because you haven't seen the problem doesn't mean it doesn't exist, he calmly replied. His response opened up a critical dialogue, allowing others to share their perspectives. By the end of the forum, the attendees were not only more aware of each other's struggles but also united in the pursuit of a common goal: to create an inclusive community. Michael felt a sense of fulfillment as the conversations transformed into commitments. He invited everyone to brainstorm ways they could collectively advocate for change, fostering a culture that challenged biases and empowered marginalized voices. As the sun set, casting a golden hue over the restaurant, it became clear that this forum was the spark needed to ignite a movement towards racial equity, not just in Michael's restaurant, but throughout the entire community. The journey toward understanding had begun. And with it, hopes for a brighter, more inclusive future blossomed. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over the bustling streets, Michael sat in his office overlooking the restaurant. The events of the past few weeks replayed in his mind like a captivating film, each scene full of emotion, conflict, and revelation. He took a deep breath and leaned back in his chair, contemplating the moment when he not only confronted Sarah, but also confronted his own biases and fears. The public forum had been a turning point, not just for the restaurant but for Michael as a leader and a person. The energy in the room had been palpable as community members gathered to share their stories, stories of exclusion, resilience, and hope. Michael remembered the vivid eyes of a young woman named Jessica as she recounted her experience of being dismissed from her dream job because of her skin color. Her voice trembled, but the strength behind her words resonated deeply in the hearts of everyone present. It was a stark reminder that discrimination had far-reaching consequences, impacting lives in unspeakable ways. That evening, as he observed the restaurant filled with laughter and lively conversations among a diverse array of patrons, Michael couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. For the first time in a long time, his establishments felt like spaces where everyone belonged, where people of all backgrounds shared more than just a meal, they shared stories, laughter, and a collective hope for a better future. However, amidst the triumphs, uncertainty lingered like a shadow. Michael was acutely aware that while policies could change and training programs could be implemented, shifting the ingrained thoughts and perceptions of individuals would take time, a continuous effort. He reflected on the phrase, "We are all works in progress," and understood that this journey was not just about him, but about creating a legacy that would inspire generations to come. That night, Michael stayed late, drafting plans for a diversity initiative that would not only impact his restaurants but also engage the wider community. He envisioned job fairs, mentorship programs for youth of color, and partnerships with local schools to promote inclusivity in education and employment. This was his resolve. This was his commitment to bridge the divide and inspire change far beyond his restaurant doors. As he finalized his notes, Michael realized the importance of storytelling in this journey. He decided to record a series of video testimonials from his staff and community members, highlighting their experiences and fostering open dialogue. These stories would not just serve as a reminder of the work ahead but also as inspiration to others who faced similar struggles. The chapter closed with Michael looking out at the vibrant streets filled with embracing differences, empowered voices, and hopeful dreams. He knew that the path to equality was long and filled with challenges, but he was more determined than ever to lead with compassion and courage. With newfound resolve, he prepared to step out into the world, ready to champion the cause of diversity, equity, and inclusion, a mission that held the promise of a brighter tomorrow. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden hue over the bustling street, Michael stood outside his restaurant, a sense of pride swelling in his chest. The establishment had transformed from just a place to eat into a vibrant hub for community engagement and social change. He watched as families, friends, and individuals of all backgrounds laughed and shared meals at tables adorned with fresh flowers and the rich aroma of culinary delights wafting through the air. Michael's heart raced as he observed the diverse group of staff members bustling about, servers from different cultures, chefs showcasing their heritage through unique dishes, and hosts welcoming each guest with open arms. This melting pot of humanity was what he had envisioned when he set out to create his restaurant. His commitment to diversity and inclusion was no longer just a concept, it had taken form, imbuing the air with a palpable sense of belonging. The experience of confronting Sarah had ignited in Michael a passion for advocacy that extended beyond the walls of his restaurant. Every Saturday, he hosted community dinners, providing a space for dialogue among patrons to share their experiences and views on discrimination and acceptance. On these nights, the restaurant was overflowing with patrons who wished to participate in discussions that were often swept under the rug. The collaboration fostered a deeper sense of understanding, cutting across the barriers society had placed. As he reflected on his journey, Michael considered the bold choices he had made, the risks he undertook to stand up against prejudice, and the challenges that lay ahead. He knew that the road to equality was an ongoing struggle, but he was now equipped with a community that understood their collective strength. He was no longer alone in this endeavor, there were many voices joining in solidarity. In that moment of clarity, Michael realized that change often starts with a single act of courage, a confrontation in the face of injustice. He recognized that his story was not just about him, but a reflection of the countless individuals who have faced discrimination and have sought to gain the respect they deserve. As families began to leave the restaurant, their faces illuminated with smiles, Michael felt a sense of fulfillment. He understood that the true measure of success was not simply in profit margins but in the impact on human lives. His restaurant became a testament to the power of community, a place where everyone had a seat at the table, with a smile on his face and hope in his heart. Michael called out to his staff, "Let's keep making a difference, one meal at a time." As they cheered in response, he knew they were all united in a mission that meant so much more than business. It was about human connection, understanding, and relentless pursuit of a more inclusive world. As the camera zoomed out, capturing the vibrancy of the restaurant and the harmony amidst its patrons, viewers were left with a profound message: when we stand together against prejudice, we create a tapestry of change that enriches the fabric of society, one thread at a time.